All right, so got a handful of coho at this point after July and August, beginning August, so it's time to start canning them. We usually eat canned coho most of the year, and it's a really great way to preserve it, save freezer space. You know, when fish are in the freezer for a while, after a few months, they kind of start to lose that, the freshness and everything. You can, they're still, you eat them, but we get a lot of fish, so and we love to eat it all year, and canning is a great way. So if you haven't tried it before, canning salmon, I recommend it, especially if you get a lot of coho. Mix up salmon salad, whatever it is. We just eat it all year, and really it lasts for a few years. As long as that seal is good on the jars, you're going to be good for a long time. So I'm going to show you how I go through it. It's pretty easy. Pressure canning is you got to make sure a few things are right, and it can be a little stinky in the house, just kind of forewarned, but it's not too bad. Our house kind of smells like fish anyway most of the time, but when we're during fishing season, because we're cutting them up and throwing them away and whatever. So, but it airs out, whatever. But yeah, check it out. I'll give you my recipe. It's very basic, just salt. That way it's, nothing fancy, but you could add smoke. You can add all kinds of flavoring to them, jalapeno, whatever, garlic, but I do stew basic coho, leave the bones in, I cut the skin off, and I'll show you how I do that, and then check it out and see if you want to do this yourself, and preserve your fish and keep it all year. Stay tuned. All right, so sometimes I do this in a 5-gallon bucket, but I had enough coho to where I need to do it in this cooler. So I'll let this all de-thaw. And I do always freeze it first because, as you know, in Oregon, you can get 2 fish per person a day. And it's just not really worth doing a batch on a couple fish here and there. It's about the same amount of work to do big batches than it is to do just little batches. So I just freezer pack it, freeze it, and then I pull it out later. And I have done this months later and canned it, and it still tastes great, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. Like I said, I just leave the bones in, I cut the skin off, I chop it up into little chunks, and then I'll stuff it in the cans. And I'll give you the recipe times and everything that I use, but also if you do this, make sure you're checking your altitudes and go off your canning instructions, because pressure canners are very particular, and you want to make sure everything's good for safety reasons, for botulism and all that. So I'll show you what I do, and yeah. All right, that worked pretty well. Nice and de-thawed, ready to be canned. All coho from the last 2 months. Look at that one. Nice.
A lot of salmon.
Yes. It is. You caught a bunch of these too.
Yeah. Is that cold water?
Very cold.
Ooh.
Yeah. All right, a whole bucket full. Okay, so I got cans from last year, and one thing I did is I ran them all through the dishwasher. So you can reuse these for a few years, but you gotta wash them, you gotta make them, you can boil them, whatever. Just run them through the dishwasher. And you can also reuse the bands, but what you can't reuse are the lids. So I go and I get wide mouth lid replacements. After I open cans, I just throw them away though. So I'm not, accidentally reusing. I write on them too, so they don't get confused, but yeah, get your new lids. You gotta do that if you're gonna reuse your cans. All right, so I've got a 5-gallon bucket, completely full of coho, and I'm about to cut all the skin off, cube it up, put it in the pressure canner, and get it going. All right, so I'll load this bowl up, the trimmings. That thing loaded up. So I'm just gonna clean all these up, and you don't have to take the bones out, but I'll just take a little more of this skin off, or this not the skin, but the little white stuff here. I forgot what it's called right now. Just kind of trim that off, trim it up however you like. You could do skin on, but I'm just gonna do skin off. So at this point, kind of cut these up. That in there. You can kind of okay, I got a Presto pressure cooker here. This thing turns, you lift this off, and then you've got a gasket here that I use vegetable oil to lubricate. So I want to make sure that's good. You're going to check this orifice here on this, make sure that's not clogged. And then what I got is pickling salt, which we'll be using on each can. You want your pressure weight. You can get different kinds of adjustable ones. And always reference your specific canner's instructions. And I've got these trays for the different can heights. So we'll put those in. Put this one down at the bottom. 3. All right, so I'm gonna do 3 quarts of water. This measuring cup is 4 cups. So it's 1 quart per cup. So I'm gonna do 3 of these right into the pressure canner. 1, 2, 'All right, now I do a splash of vinegar. This is gonna help that staining or discoloration on your cans. Good enough. Just a minute, baby. I'm gonna boil the lids for a few minutes. I was gonna soften up that seal to get those ready. All right, so right now I'm gonna start staging my cans. Okay, so we've got 3 quarts of water, a splash of vinegar, and that first protected tray down. Now we're gonna get the cans ready and we're gonna start stacking them. So I've got this little prep station ready. I'm gonna start laying my cans out and getting ready to fill them. Pickling salt. All right, so I'm gonna start boiling lids. All right, now I'm gonna start packing these up. Take these jars, I'm gonna just start packing them with salmon. Doesn't have to be perfect. If you have little scraps or chunks, just rip them off and get them in there. That's about what we want. We want a little bit of a gap. I try to just kind of do the ring of the rim, and that seems to work pretty well. This is going to be a lot. Sit down. Like I said, I actually want the bones in these. Okay, super important now, you need to take vinegar, put it on a paper towel. You take a paper towel, take some vinegar, get that paper towel wet with vinegar. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna check these rims and I'm gonna clean it with this vinegar. This is gonna be really important to get your good seal. So you clean it, wipe it, set it off to the side. Okay, that one's ready to be capped. I'm gonna do this with each of them and kind of visually inspect. I want that to be nice and vinegary and clean. You know, if anything that might be in there to obstruct that seal. Okay, nice and shiny. Try to remember which ones you've done. Okay, first 12 are here, ready. Now I'm gonna start getting my caps over here. You can reuse these bands, and that's what we're gonna do. Now I'm just gonna finger tight, just kind of barely tighten them. You don't wanna crank them down. They need to be able to let gas out and some fluid. Don't add any fluid to the salmon. Just leave it empty, and the fluid will come out of the fish. Okay, and you're gonna place this on, seat it, lock it. All right, now what we're gonna do, now this part's really important. You're gonna wanna vent this thing. So what we're gonna wanna do is we're gonna wanna get it to the point where this is venting. This little top notch here is gonna pop up, and that's gonna mean that it's pressurized and it's venting. You vent for 10 minutes, and then at that point you're gonna put the weight on it, this weight here, and this is gonna start rocking, and we're gonna want this pressure to build up to 10 psi. I go a little higher. It's okay to go higher, but you don't want to go lower. If you go lower than 10 psi, you're gonna have to restart the time. And the timeline for me, now this is not necessarily gonna be the same for you. I'm at close to sea level, so timeline for me is 10 pounds of pressure for 100 minutes. Now, like I said, I go a little higher than that, but you can't go below that. So let it vent, pressurize, and then we put the weight on, and then we'll let it build up to 10 psi at least, and then we'll let that go for 100 minutes. Now at that point, do not pop this lid off. If you pop this lid off right after that, this thing could pop right off, blow up in your face, you know, get y'all burned. So you have to let it come down from pressure and cool off. Now once it's cooled off, and this little thing will, like I said, it will pop up, but once it drops back down, then you can pop this lid off and take it off real slow because a lot of steam is going to come out. And then we'll let these cans sit overnight, and they'll actually suck down. You'll hear them go thunk, 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 thunk. And at that point, those cans are then done, and we can label them and put them in the cupboard. This is what the finished product will look like. It's a king from last year. This is when I canned it, not when I caught it. Delicious, delicious. Okay, now I'm gonna put this weight on, and now you can see this thing has popped up, and now we're gonna wait for it to build pressure, 10 psi. Okay, so it's rocking now, and the pressure's a little higher, so I can turn the gas down just a little bit. You don't want to do too much where it drops down below 10. So at this point, now I'm going to start a timer for 100 minutes. Okay, so after you open this lid, you want to be really careful with it. Make sure that this has completely depressed and that the pressure is all gone. And then you're going to open this lid, and you are going to want something like this, one of these little tools. So you can grab these, because these are going to be extremely hot. Lids should be a little loose. It's okay. They don't need to be tight. See that bubbling quite a bit. They don't have to necessarily bubble, but it's always a good sign. And then you want to see them depressed. Now, when these cool off after all night, if you press on the top of this and it pops up and down, it's not sealed. You gotta use it. You can eat it. It's not bad, but don't put it on the shelf. It's not shelf stable. I can't reiterate that enough. If it is not sealed. So what I always do is I try to pop the lids even after they're sitting up in the cupboard. And if you can just pull it off with your finger, it's not sealed. Don't eat it. But right after you do it, just like this, they come off. A couple days in the fridge, you're good to go. Just eat it right away, just like, you know, opening a can of tuna or something. So I'm gonna get the rest of these out, and then I gotta do another batch, but let them sit overnight. They do take several hours. Make sure you kind of do this throughout, like plan a whole day to do this. But it's a great way to store your fish, and it cleans up a ton of room in your freezer. So, and they're super tasty. All right, so out of a batch, it looks like I only had one not seal, and it still could seal, but unlike probably not gonna seal, see the bubbles in these? This one does not, and the lid is not popped down. So we'll keep an eye on that one. After it cools off, I'll try to pop the lid off, and if it pops off, that will go in the fridge and we'll have to eat that right away. The rest of these, you see they got bubbling, they're really hot. You can see the fat has all rendered. These are perfect. All the bones in these have melted too. So, and that's extremely nutritious. So I like to eat them like that, and we just eat them like that all year. But yeah, don't worry about bones. I mean, even for Chinook, I've done Chinook this way, and it's really good. And I leave the bones in. I don't really care. I mean, I'll eat sardines out of a can though, so it doesn't bother me. You don't taste them; they just melt, they dissolve. So you don't like chewing pin bones or anything. It's completely dissolved, and it's really good for you. So yeah, so you know, it's a good way to store your fish. 24 cans, 1 failed. The rest, all good to go. They're all going to be shelf stable by tomorrow. Well, let them sit overnight, let them cool, and then we'll date them, coho, date them, and throw them in. And I date them not for when they're caught, I date them for when they're canned. And then they're good to go. And hey, if you like this stuff, please subscribe, hit the notification bell. I don't have a regular schedule when I put stuff out. I plan eventually to get to that, but right now we're kind of putting stuff out as we go. When we go on a trip, we try to get that content out quickly, especially if it's going to have some helpful information for people. Like I said, we're just a family that goes out in the Northwest, and we do this for fun because we love it, and it's a great sport. Get your kids involved, get out there and do this, and like I said, follow us for more. If you really enjoy this, and if you have any questions or anything, just comment below, and try to get back to you. Try to get back to anybody who talks or has questions or anything. But yeah, so thanks for watching.